Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel, Coffee Tea Paper. My name's Louise and this is part 3 in a continuing series where I'm sharing my favourite journaling books with you, where I find inspiration, ideas, or I just like looking at them. I was going to do a different one this week, but I've decided to skip that one and I will come back to it in another video and look at this one by Abbey C first. If you are here watching me, it's probably because you are interested in journaling and you are most likely aware of who Abbey C is. Now, just in case you are not, I will read this bit in the back. Abbey C is an artist and author whose creative career includes writing and illustrating books on hand lettering, journaling, and living a creative life. With a love for art and travel, Abbey has dedicated her life to exploring new places, documenting them in her journals, and building a community that provides ideas and inspiration for your creative journey. This is Abbey's 7th book. Her other books are The ABCs of Hand Lettering, The ABCs of Journaling, and Always Be Creating, a Field Guide to Living a Creative Life. And her quarto titles are Hand Lettering A to Z, The Complete Photo Guide to Hand Lettering and Calligraphy, and Hand Lettering A to Z Workbook. She currently lives in Berlin, Germany, and here are all her socials on the bottom here. So the premise of this book, unlike her other books, is the art of the travel journal. You will have realised, but her other books are mostly about lettering, hand lettering, and so forth, being creative. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you and say that I actually have mixed feelings about this book, and I will tell you a bit about that as we go through. I mean, the imagery we have dotted throughout, love it. Of course. She starts off with an introduction about her story of how she started travel journaling, and then she talks about getting started and journaling terms, which these aren't really journaling terms. They're kind of words that are often thrown up, but yeah, they're not really of that much interest, to be honest. A history of travel journaling, which is really brief, more the same. Why you might want to start a travel journal, the benefits of keeping a travel journal, which is not just for travel journaling. These things could be applicable to any sort of journaling, you know, like mindfulness and reflection, develops your creative vision, provides an outlet, all those sorts of things. Now, all of a sudden, we're at chapter 2, we're at page 25, and we're already up to materials. Once again, there's lots of really nice sort of eye candy in the book. She talks here, she gives sort of 3 examples of types of journals that you might want to consider using, but she doesn't actually recommend any particular brands or particular books that she likes. Same again with the pens that she suggests. There's no, I mean, I recognize that as a Muji pen, and if I went through, I could probably identify what these brands are, but there's no actual brand recommendations here. She talks about the difference between using gel pen, fountain pen inks, and it's all very high level. It doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty of why you might want to choose things, what is better, you know, particular brands that she favors, what she would include in a short-term travel kit, a long-term travel kit, those sorts of things. She talks about the importance of paper, so if you want to do watercolor in your journal or sketching or fountain pen, but I feel it's a bit disappointing because she hasn't actually recommended any particular journals or journal brands that might accommodate those kind of mediums. Then she sort of talks about other tools and she, all these tools and stamps and tapes and cutters and a bone folder and stickers, and then for some reason she talks about a typewriter and a printer and a camera. I would never travel with a typewriter personally. And then she talks about creating a travel art kit, which is yes, it's a type of travel journal, but if you're looking to sort of combine a number of things, it's all very up here and doesn't really get down into the nitty-gritty. She teaches you how to create your own washi tape sampler, that you might want to do your own watercolor tin, but unfortunately she doesn't recommend what paints, a brand, what colors, anything along those lines. She talks about telling stories. This is this is sort of a bit more interesting because she talks about using your travel journal for not only whilst you're traveling but also pre-trip planning, about your goals, what your interests are, your budget, as a place to corral the research for where you're going, timetabling, those sorts of things. And then we're back to talking about types of travel journals again. Here she talks about, an illustrated journal, collage journaling, like, sort of scrapbooking type journaling, postcards, like this idea of writing a postcard to yourself and using that as your journal, putting together a digital journal, like rather than one that you take with you as a travel journal, which kind of goes against everything that she's been talking about earlier. Collecting and composition. She talks about things that you can collect on your journey: maps, tickets, brochures, packaging, postage stamps, postcards, photographs if you have an instant camera, or you print them out as you go along, or she talks about tip-ins, like making envelopes or pockets. And then there's a bit of a jump to whilst you're traveling, creating your own postcards, and there's quite a bit on that. And then making a collage travel zine. Not sure if that's for yourself or to share. And then she has some suggestion for some actual spread ideas, but once again, all of these 3 samples are in different journals, but she doesn't actually mention what size they are or what brand they are and so forth. This is art heavy one, so that you would want to, she says, you'd want to have a journal that had watercolor paper or mixed media paper. Pocket journal. This one is a photo heavy journal, but there's not really a sample there. Collage heavy. Then she talks about maybe having an architectural focus, and this is a different journal again. So look, I really love looking at all the illustrations in here, and it's interesting to sort of pick out kind of aspects of it. Here she's talking, like, this is another type of journal. Again, this is a traveler's notebook, which is what I tend to travel journal in. I used to use a moleskin, but I find that it's a one use only one, and it's quite heavy when you're traveling around with it because it's hardcover. Whereas I find personally using a traveler's notebook where you can put different inserts inside. So if you're doing a short trip, they have a short trip insert. You can have 2 large inserts. You can put your sticker books, etc., in. That's what works for me. But she doesn't really talk so much about that in here. Then she talks about not travel journaling as such, but if you decide to have little day trips from home or weekend adventures, you can keep a journal for that. And then we get into sort of her area of expertise, which is hand lettering. And she goes into quite a lot of detail about that, and color palettes. And this really applies to any sort of journaling ideas about finding your style, just keeping with it, choosing a style that suits you, doing it regularly, so on and so forth. She talks about investing in quality materials, but once again, she doesn't really recommend any in particular. I mean, I guess, if you've watched her channel, I just find that there's sort of a lot of assumed knowledge with this book. And then she looks at some other journal keepers and they're on Instagram and YouTube, etc., with some different styles. And I mean, a lot of these people I'm very familiar with already. Jane the Crazy, her stuff is so eclectic. I really, really enjoy her style. Helen Colebrook, she's she keeps a lot of different journals. This is just one example, but she keeps a massive variety. Job, of course, they're very good friends. Their style can be very similar. I think there's a lot of cross interaction between the similarities of what they enjoy and the style they enjoy. I really like a lot of Job's journal pages as well. I think Christine, she does a lot of collaborative work with Christine, who is the owner of Everyday Explorers. So she's featured her in here. My Life Mitts, I think she's gotten. Yep. I want to say I really like her style as well. And I just feel it's a bit of a shame that we're just seeing like a couple of pages of each of these creators, and then she has her resources, acknowledgements, etc. Look, there's a lot of really nice images in here to look at, like with sample pages and artwork and different ideas and pockets and things. But I just feel that it's such a broad overview. It just doesn't really get into the nitty gritty of for someone like myself, like I've been journaling for a long time, since I was a kid, and my style has changed over time. But there's nothing to say that I'm not interested in learning about new ideas and new styles, and it just feels very light on. I feel that it's a bit of a lost opportunity, to be perfectly honest. I think with a book this size, there's a lot of white space and these sorts of pages here that I think she really could have gotten a lot deeper into different styles of travel journaling and different materials, and really given a really nice list of specifics of what she uses in particular situations. For example, I'm just a bit disappointed that we've gotten to page 17 before she even sort of starts about, well, why do you want to start a travel journal, which is probably the whole premise of why the person has purchased this book. Look, I really enjoy her YouTube channel. I enjoy seeing what she makes and creates, and it's always fun when she does vlogs and she takes the viewer on different experiences and then works through her various journals, and I certainly enjoy that very much. And so maybe I was anticipating something a bit more from this book. I'm still glad I purchased it, don't get me wrong, because I will go and have a look at the artists, for example, who I haven't looked at before, because there's a couple that are new to me in the back here. And of course, I will always keep following Abbey and seeing how she's developing and what she's working on next. I guess I just wanted something a bit more, well, just more. I wanted more. Yeah, it just feels a bit too much of an overview and not enough substance. I quite like this idea of a travel zine, that you might like to share with a pen pal, like maybe if you want to create a zine that you can then scan in and print out to share with friends, family, pen pals, etc. Yeah, that's quite fun, I think. I mean, her brush lettering and everything is amazing, but I would have liked to have known like what paints she likes to use and what colors she likes to have in her palettes. And I mean, this one, I don't know if that's a watercolor palette. I mean, it looks like it, but I don't know. She doesn't say. It could be gouache. I certainly will get probably some ideas out of here. Are they different to what I could have found by being a regular viewer on her YouTube channel? I'm not entirely sure. I'm still glad I have it in my journaling library, and for a complete beginner, for someone who maybe doesn't have a clue where to start, maybe it's the first point, and then you might find some other places to dig a bit deeper. But I just found myself just a little bit disappointed. I hope you're all not too upset. And on that bombshell, I will say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. And next time, I'm going to bring in the book that I was going to do this time, which is almost the complete opposite of this one. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share this one first with you, and then we'll go back to the one that I was originally going to share. And I'll be interested to see what you think of that one. Bye for now.